Have you ever felt your blood boil over something small? Maybe someone cut you off in traffic, or a coworker said something that felt like a personal attack. Your heart raced, your jaw clenched, you replayed it in your mind for hours, maybe even days. We've all been there. But what if I told you that most of the time, you're getting angry at nothing, at an empty boat drifting in the current? Let me explain. There was once a man who loved solitude. Every evening, after the noise of the day had faded, he would take his small wooden boat to the middle of a quiet lake. The water was still, the sky stretched endlessly above him. It was his escape, his moment of peace. One evening, as the sun began to set and the lake turned golden, he pushed his boat from the shore. The rhythm of the oars cutting through water always calmed him. Stroke after stroke, breath after breath, he closed his eyes and let himself drift. But then, out of nowhere, he felt a sudden jolt. Something had crashed into his boat. Hard. His eyes shot open. His peaceful moment shattered. Anger surged through him like a wave. "Who dares?" he shouted, spinning around to face the other boat. He was ready to yell, ready to curse, ready to let this careless fool know exactly what he thought of people who can't watch where they're going. But when he turned around, there was no one there. The boat that had hit him was empty. It had simply drifted with the current, bumping into his by chance. There was no sailor, no intent, no malice, just an empty boat, floating aimlessly on the water. And just like that, his anger disappeared. He sat there in silence, staring at the empty boat as it drifted away. And then, slowly, he began to smile, not because it was funny, but because he realized something profound. If there had been someone in that boat, he would have spent the rest of his evening angry. He would have shouted. He would have argued. He would have carried that bitterness home with him, letting it ruin his night, maybe even his week. But because the boat was empty, his anger had nowhere to go. It simply dissolved like mist in the morning sun. And in that moment, he understood a truth that would change his life. Most boats are empty. Think about it. How many times have you been upset by something someone said or did, only to later realize they didn't even mean it the way you thought? How many arguments have you had over misunderstandings? How many sleepless nights have you spent replaying a moment that the other person forgot about 5 minutes later? We get angry. We feel disrespected. We take things personally. But most of the time, the other person wasn't even aiming at us. They were just drifting lost in their own current, dealing with their own struggles, reacting from their own pain. They're an empty boat. That driver who cut you off, maybe they just got terrible news and weren't paying attention. The coworker who snapped at you, maybe they're going through something at home you know nothing about. The friend who forgot to call you back, maybe they're overwhelmed and barely keeping it together. None of it was about you. You just happened to be there when their boat drifted into yours. And here's the hard truth. When you respond with anger, you're choosing to climb into that empty boat. You're choosing to let something with no intention control your emotions. You're giving your peace away to something that doesn't even exist. The man on the lake never forgot that evening. From that day forward, whenever someone upset him, he would pause and ask himself one simple question: is this an empty boat? And more often than not, the answer was yes. The rude comment? An empty boat. The forgotten promise? An empty boat. The hurtful text message? An empty boat. Not because people's actions don't matter, but because most of the time, They're not really about you. They're about them. Their fears, their pain, their distractions, their own struggle to stay afloat. And when you realize that, everything changes. You stop taking things so personally. You stop carrying around resentment that was never meant for you in the first place. You stop wasting your energy fighting battles that don't even exist. You become lighter, calmer, freer, because you've learned to see the empty boats for what they are, just boats, drifting, no captain, no control, no intent, and instead of climbing aboard and letting them take you off course, you simply let them pass. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean you ignore real problems. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Doesn't mean you accept bad behavior without setting boundaries. Some boats aren't empty. Some collisions are intentional. Some people do mean harm. And in those cases, you need to protect yourself. You need to speak up. You need to act. But here's the thing. Those situations are rarer than we think. Most of the time, we're fighting ghosts. We're getting angry at accidents. We're holding grudges over misunderstandings. And all that does is weigh us down. So how do you practice this? How do you stop reacting to every empty boat that drifts into your life? First, pause. When something upsets you, take a breath before you respond. Don't let your first instinct take control. Just pause. Second, ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is this person just dealing with their own storm? Third, choose. You can climb into that empty boat and let it take you wherever it's drifting, or you can stay in your own boat, steady and calm, and keep rowing toward where you actually want to go. It's always your choice. The man on the lake spent the rest of his years teaching this lesson to anyone who would listen, and people were amazed at how peaceful he became, how nothing seemed to shake him, how he could face insults, disappointments, and frustrations with a quiet smile. They thought he had some special power, some secret technique, but all he had was a simple understanding. Most boats are empty, and once you see that, you're free. So the next time someone cuts you off, snaps at you, ignores you, or does something that makes your blood boil, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this an empty boat? And if it is, let it go. Let it drift past. Don't climb aboard. Don't give it your peace. Don't let it steer your day, because your life is too valuable to spend it angry at things that were never about you in the first place. Stay in your boat, keep your hands on the oars, and keep moving forward. That's the lesson of the empty boat, and it's one of the most powerful lessons you'll ever learn. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the empty boats in your own life. And remember, you always have a choice. See you in the next story.